Hello class, for this presentation we will be discussing project-based learning, more specifically information pertaining to chapters 3, 4, and 5 from our class textbook, Reinventing Project-Based Learning, Your Field Guide to Real-World Projects in the Digital Age. So, as mentioned earlier, for this video we will be discussing chapters 3, 4, and 5. Chapter 3 introduces the idea of project-based learning. To begin project-based learning, you must first find out what you need to teach students and what you want them to learn. The standards for what students need to learn are already set with things like Common Core. You need to find what what would make your students meet these standards and want to learn, and then modify a project into something valuable. Move away from the given textbook and give students a project that will pique their interests. To make a project interesting, design a prompt that focuses on an idea that has a real-world application, something that students can relate to as well as see its effects. Projects also need to incorporate higher-level thinking. Stay away from having students parrot information. Have them analyze and assess information. It is key that students become competent in technological literacy, including technology and projects. Have students collaborate and research with technology resources. It is the teacher's responsibility to provide a chance for students to find information. Teachers do not need to just sit and give information out. Students need an opportunity to find information for themselves. The teacher is merely a guide. As stated previously, use technology, but use it to enhance learning by incorporating multiple different tools and apps that are created daily. There are two dispositions of learning, or how someone handles learning. First is the fixed mindset. This is someone who thinks intelligence is fixed, and when they encounter difficulties in learning, they become discouraged, thinking they are not smart enough to solve a problem, and therefore they are not learning. Next, there is the growth mindset. This is the mindset of someone that thinks that they can get more from struggling, and it means that they are learning. This is important because with the project-based learning approach, a growth mindset is required. Projects can be difficult, especially when it's up to the individual to solve a problem. They must overcome gaps in knowledge through research and learning. Someone with a fixed mindset will encounter difficulty and possibly give up. It is important for a teacher to understand this so they can identify students that have fixed mindsets in order to help move them forward with a project while changing that student's perspective. Next, we will discuss Chapter 4, which goes over strategies of introducing project-based learning. There are 3 ways to go about using project-based learning, and you can use an already made project, adapt a made project, or create your own. There are benefits and downfalls for all 3 of these approaches. Using an already made project is great for saving time and energy, but some projects are not as great as they may first appear. You will have to take time and look at a project that will fit your needs. You will also have to make sure that the project is appropriate length and doesn't only just touch the surface of a topic. You want a project that goes in depth and takes time and effort, but has a balance of time versus outcomes. Adapting an already created project is a great way to take an idea and modify it to fit your class. Changing the theme, adding or subtracting from the made project allows for greater flexibility. However, altering a project that was terrible to begin with will create more and more work and will divert your intent. Creating your own project is a great way to get the most out of your students, but making your own project can be time-consuming and difficult, especially if it is your first time creating one. The best projects take an idea and get students thinking. They become involved in the project, making it feel more exciting. You want the project to be relatable to your students, having them create something that they will see have an impact. You want the project to be insightful. Have students coming up with new ideas that will change the way they learn and think, such as changing somebody from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Lastly, you want the project to have a loose design. There are many ways to get results. You want students to come up with their own way of solving problems and designing projects. Having students only work with the same set of tools will diminish creativity. When designing a project, work with other teachers. Get their input and ideas to help create a project that will have a greater effect. This does not have to be limited to teachers you work with. You can collaborate with others online in many different web forums dedicated for teacher collaboration. This will make your projects more diverse and give you a better understanding of how your ideas are seen by others. The last chapter we'll discuss is Chapter 5, which goes over project-based learning assessment. You want the assessment of your students to mean something, not just putting a letter grade on a project and saying, good job, or work harder next time. You want to give feedback to your students. You also want to make sure that they are learning what you want them to learn, not just creating something that does not pertain to the knowledge outcomes you want. The two ways you can do this are summative assessment and formative assessment. With a summative assessment, you are assessing your students throughout the project. You want to give students a rubric that will help guide them through the expectations of what they will be learning, but you do not want to make a rubric that fosters limitations on creativity. When assessing students, use real-world models to hold them accountable. Hold their work up to what somebody in that field of study would go through when presenting their work. Showing students how assessment is done in the world instead of always in the classroom. Using self-assessment is another way to help students through the process of a project, or at the end. It gives students a chance to reflect on their work and see how far they have come. For formative assessment, setting deadlines and check-ins allows you to see where students are in the process of their projects. Having them turn in an artifact that has some of their progress through a project will help you gauge whether a student is working and/or learning. Through both of these parts of formative assessment, you will see if students are maintaining focus on the project and on the path of learning the skills and knowledge you want them to develop. This is the reference for our source. It's from the textbook Reinventing Project-Based Learning, Your Field Guide to Real-World Projects in the Digital Age. Thank you for listening to my presentation.